Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome into episode number 2 of our TCW save in TEW 2020, and we are jumping into Total Wrestling for January Week 1, our first official show of the save, and I'm just going to tell you guys quickly up front. This was so much fun, and this was a very sort of freeing experience because, as you guys know, if you've followed the channel, I do the WWE save, the AEW save, we have the WCW save going. Those can be very extensive and exhausting at times because there's a huge roster, 100 plus workers on each of those rosters, and we do have some storylines that are very, very, very detailed, and so those can be kind of fun but exhausting in their own way, and so this was just like a completely new deal in terms of putting this together. Again, not that I haven't played Seaverse saves before, but this was just so much fun to put this show together and really start working on the storylines that we're going to have moving forward, and to see a roster that only has like 35 people on it. It is just, it's a nice break from the 100 plus rosters that I have for the WWE and AEW save. So here we go. We start off Total Wrestling as we get a segment here looking at the video highlights from Aaron Andrews, our TCW World Heavyweight Champion, looking at his win over Joshua Taylor at Psycho Circus. That was our December pay-per-view, so we're kind of building this into the background of the story that Andrews successfully defended against Taylor. So we look at the highlights of that match, and we also see at the end Wolf Hawkins coming out and sort of going face-to-face with Aaron Andrews. Nothing said between the two, but we did have sort of the face-to-face. The King of Kings winner, Wolf Hawkins, coming out and going face-to-face with Aaron Andrews. So 73 for the segment. We start things off. Now we go to the ring as we start the official show here inside the ring, and 85 for this segment, which, as we're going to see, Wolf and Aaron Andrews, I have a feeling, are going to really deliver. Again, all these ratings are pretty much new to me because this is the first time I played through with TCW in TEW 2020, so I have no idea what to expect with a lot of these ratings. I'm hoping for the best in terms of how we booked it. So we get a segment here. It is Kyle Rhodes, who we're going to use Rhodes as sort of the in-ring interviewer. I know he's our main announcer, pay-per-view only. He's kind of our veteran. Of course, he's the owner of the company too, but we're using Kyle Rhodes as sort of your in-ring interviewer here. And so we have Rhodes standing in the ring with Wolf Hawkins. Wolf's about to be in action coming up after this. And so Rhodes asks Wolf about confronting our TCW heavyweight champion, Aaron Andrews, after the main event at Psycho Circus. And Wolf just says, I don't have a lot to say right now. My actions speak for themselves. I've got a match coming up against Danny Fonzarelli, someone who hasn't won a match since I was out training to become a wrestler. I'm not worried about Danny Fonzarelli. But I will tell you this, and all you need to know, Kyle Rhodes and everybody else, is that sooner or later, the Syndicate takes what they want by any means necessary. So that's what Wolf has to say here, really pushing the Syndicate and their any means necessary tagline, and that he is going to head into this match with Danny Fonzarelli. And not much to say here from Wolf off the bat, but as you'll see, we're going to kind of build into some of these storylines. So don't expect me to give everything away in episode 1. That's not going to be the case. But a great promo here from Wolf, 85, really pushing kind of the heel tactics of the Alpha Wolf here and the Syndicate. By any means necessary. So that is how we go into the match, and the match delivers because it's got Wolf in it. Wolf gets the win over Danny Fonzarelli in 8:03. The pinfall, Full Moon Rising for the victory, 79 as we said. Wolf with an 87 in ring. Fonz is older now, we know that. If we kind of look at some stuff here, Fonz declining physical ability, I just sort of expected that. He's older, as is what feels like half our roster. I don't think I realized, guys, how many old stars there are on this roster until I actually really kind of got into it. But Wolf gets the win here over the Fonz. And keep in mind, there was something Wolf said about the Fonz in the promo that will play into a storyline here moving forward. So 79 for this one. All right, now we get ready for our next match here. And it is Eddie Pete coming out with the Center Society, our other heel stable that we have in TCW, and we're getting ready for a scheduled tag team match here. It's going to be Mighty Mo and Tana the Mighty taking on the team of Killer Shark and Titan, the Behemoths. But is that going to actually happen? Because we get the Center Society coming out, and Eddie Peak says that Killer Shark has not been cleared to wrestle after their match at Psycho Circus They picked up a big win. That's what we're pushing at Psycho Circus. Killer Shark not cleared to wrestle. Peak says he doesn't want him to get in there and further risk any injury. So that's when Peak says, Booth, you're up. So he's basically sicking Nick Booth on here, and Booth's going to team with Titan here to take on Mighty Mo and Tana. So as you'll see, we're kind of using Booth as sort of the dog of the group. He's just basically, telling Booth to get in there and sort of go after these guys. And Booth, kind of younger, eager guy, trying to prove himself to the Center Society. So Eddie puts Booth in with Titan. This gets a 70 segment. As we see here, Floyd Goldworthy, our manager, I guess we're going to have to take him off of that if we see that it's an awkward pairing. So, and Eddie Peak, I looked, his microphone works good enough as it is, right? So I don't really see a need to have Floyd with him. So we're probably going to do this now. I didn't really know what to expect here in terms of, you always get that sometimes with the chemistry and such. So whatever. But in the match itself, we do get Mighty Meaty. I love that tag team name. Against Titan and Nick Booth here. And what happens? Well, of course, the Center Society up to no good. Because, this gets a 64, by the way. I'm not mad about that. Because, really, Mighty Mo and Tana were fine here, but Booth, terrible in the ring. So Floyd did do some good work ringside. But Booth intentionally gets disqualified fighting Mighty Mo. That's kind of our finish here. We only went 7 minutes with this group. I didn't want to go too long with these guys. But so basically, the theme here is that Killer Shark runs in. He's just fine. There's no injury to Killer Shark. And he runs in and attacks Mighty Mo. That causes the DQ. So we get a DQ finish with Mighty Meaty getting the win here. But it's basically playing up the fact that, as we talked about from a storyline standpoint in the previous episode, we are playing up the Center Society against Mighty Mo and Tana here, and that it is the number advantage for the heels. They're going to have to find some backup, or the baby faces, to be able to counter this. And so this was really Peak just sort of pulling one over, assuming, kind of pushing the Shark was injured. He's not injured. He runs in. He's fine. Attacks Mighty Mo. So that's what we're pushing here between this group here. So 64, like I said, I'm pleased with that, given some of the talent involved. So, all right, now we get a video here, and boy, listen, this is, the product itself, it's old school Southern wrestling. That's what we're doing here. And we're really trying to push a certain theme here. And I'm curious to see if anyone eventually guesses kind of what show we're sort of patterning this after than reality. There is, if you go kind of old school, we're patterning this around me kind of watching some older stuff that there's a certain TV show that I want to pattern this after. It may take several episodes to actually get the theme going, but we're trying that here at least in episode 1, at least show 1. So we get a video, and it is highlights from Sammy Bach's recent concert, or rock star Sammy Bach. This man gave out a free concert, and there were people everywhere. So he gave a recent concert in New Orleans here where we're at, and so tremendous stuff, right? Sammy Bach giving out free concerts in New Orleans. So that'll play into something a little bit later on, but we're just kind of looking at one of our top stars here, Sammy Bach. Poor tried to improvise dialogue. Well, good thing his lyrics are scripted, so he shouldn't have been improvising lyrics anyways. Come on, Sammy, don't do that in a song. 72 for this one. All right, now we get to another. Okay, so now we're starting to pick things up a bit with some of our in-ring workers here. So in this match for the television title, it is Greg Gage defending the television championship against Flying Jimmy Foxx in 10:22. Gets the submission. The Proton Lock does it. So that's defense now number 9 for the TCW championship for Greg Gage. We don't have it put in necessarily after this. We didn't really have a segment to spare based on the time, but we're kind of pushing afterwards, makes, Fox submit, and then Greg Gage goes over to Benny Benson, who's going to be in our main event against Chord. And you kind of have Greg Gage going over and kind of, taunting Benny Benson and those kind of things. So Gage locking in the submission, gets the win. He's still our TV champion. 77. Good in-ring work, actually, from both guys here. So I'm trying to see what we did. We did do regular. We made it an open match. Yeah, so no penalties. So we got the best we could out of these two. So that's good to see. Still your champ, Greg Gage. All right, now we've got Kyle Rhodes back in the ring. And Rhodes says, all right, Freddie Huggins, you requested this TV time. And he just says, what do you want to talk about? Like, everyone's kind of annoyed here. Freddie is the arrogant jerk. That's his gimmick. And so Huggins boasts about his big win he got over Bart Biggins at Psycho Circus. We're playing that into the universe here of our TCW world. So Huggins got the win over Bart Biggins at Psycho Circus. And that is when Huggins goes to speak again, but the crowd's just booing this guy. Again, he's an arrogant jerk, right? No one, I mean, they're just booing the hell out of this guy. And that's when his sister, Laura Catherine Huggins, LCH, we're going to call her, she starts yelling for the fans to shut up. They need to stop calling her brother names, and that she just gets so upset when people are calling her brother names, and not to pick on him. So we've got kind of the dynamic here of the overprotective sister. That's the gimmick we're using for Laura Catherine Huggins here. And so she's telling everyone to shut up. So finally, that just continues the heat. But then Freddie says, I think you're going to want to hear this. And Freddie says, Kyle Rhodes, I'm here to tell you that I am going to issue an open challenge. And so the fans, the boos start to turn into a little excitement because they're like, all right, we're about to get a match here, right? So Freddie Huggins is issuing an open challenge. And then he says, but I'm not going to do it here in New Orleans. I'm not going to wrestle in a city like this. He said, my open challenge is for next week. And so the fans are booing. He's not going to wrestle in New Orleans. So Freddie just, again, pushing how arrogant he is. He's not going to wrestle in this town. So he says he'll issue an open challenge for next week. If anyone wants to step up to him, he'll be there waiting on him. And so Freddie, doing some heel tactics here, but the man refuses to wrestle in New Orleans. So he'll wrestle next week. We'll see who answers that open challenge for Freddie Huggins. 68. Good heel heat here from the one and only Freddie himself. All right, this match did not do well, and I'm not surprised. This was kind of our let-up match. I knew when I booked it this was not going to be one of the better ones, but Divine Fortune, as it is Gerald Divine, Chance Fortune, tag team, gets the win over Roderick Remus and Jeremy Courtney here, 7:53. Chance pins Courtney with a stroke of luck. So, I mean, you don't have a lot of great in-ring work here, so I'm just like, some of these are just going to be that way, but we got to load up with our top stars. We did do storytelling here, too. We had to have a match on the card aimed at storytelling, so we had that. I don't love it, but we had to do it. The bigger story is what happens after the match, and this, again, is just bombed. A 49 for this one. The Elite hit the ring, so Eddie Chandler, Nate Johnson, part of the Syndicate, they hit the ring, and so now we've got kind of exchanging punches between the Elite and Divine Fortune here. That is one of our starting storylines, so we're kind of pushing this forward. These two teams fighting each other, eventually kind of, sending one or the other out, and that's kind of what we're pushing here, is just kind of a fight between these two. So, again, one of our starting storylines, I said I was going to stick with them. This one probably won't do the best from a rating standpoint, but we're going to stick with it, at least off the start, and see where it goes. So, back and forth between these two teams. All right, now we get to Sammy, our rock star. He gets the win over Troy Tornado here, 9:43 submission. Bach on your back is, it's quite a finish name. 75, so good match. Sammy gets a 72. Troy's off his game. My guess is both of these guys have declining physical ability. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. So, I mean, to get a 75, I'll take it. Sammy's popularity helps a little bit there. And so, yeah, Troy's, as I said, there's a lot of guys on this show that are just over the hill, I guess you could say, in terms of their in-ring work. And that's why I know you guys said a lot kind of in the comments, really got to revamp the roster. And that is a big goal we have in TCW, but we can't do it from show one. So show one is going to have some older guys on it, but as you'll see, the roster is going to start to infiltrate some new talent in there as well. So 75 for this one. Sammy gets the win. Afterwards, Sammy wants to give out another free concert, folks. I mean, this guy is a true gem, handing out free concerts to the people. So in front of 7,396 people here in New Orleans, Louisiana, Sammy Bach is going to give out a free concert in the ring. However, Chord is not having any of that shit. So Jay tells the officials to get Sammy Bach out of this ring. And so he's got a match coming up, our main event, Chord against Benny Benson. And Jay is telling the officials, get this guy out of the ring. And so Chord, going off on Sammy. So, we kind of have officials have to get Sammy out of the ring. The fans are booing. They wanted their free rock concert. But unfortunately, it's not going to happen. Chord not sitting around waiting for this rock concert. So this is one of our starting storylines as well. And as you will see, this will kind of play into what we have moving forward. So an 82 for this one. That does lead us into our main event. And in our main event, gets a 79. So I'm okay with that. I knew kind of with the pairing. I mean, we weren't using our 4 top superstars against each other in some combination. So I knew it wasn't going to be the best match. But Jay gets the win here over Benny Benson, 15-20. We did go 15 minutes with this one. Cradle Pile Driver. And we had some interference here from Greg Gage. So I pushed that earlier. The TV Championship match, Greg Gage got the win over Jimmy Foxx. And so That's when he started taunting Benson. Well, Greg Gage wasn't done there. He comes out, little interference here. Chord gets the win. 83 in terms of his in-ring performance, so terrific stuff from the one and only Chord here. So we gained some heat with this segment. This gets a 79 for this one. And I think we did, I'm trying to see, we did a regular match. We did have the interference, looking kind of the notes here. Yeah, so declining physical ability but Benny, but that was about it. So now, after the match, it's the heels. Chord, Greg Gage, they go after Benny Benson, Flying Jimmy Foxx here. So, again, we had Gage's interference in the match. So Chord and Gage kind of, going at these two, the baby faces, so they're getting beat down. So we've got the heat on the heels here. They're going after the baby faces. 67 for this segment. Jay, fantastic, which I think is going to be a trend in this series. And then here comes some backup for the baby faces. Here comes Aaron Andrews, our World Heavyweight Champion. Here comes Sammy Bach, who, as we said, kind of had the spat with Chord there before the match. And so Andrews, Bach come in as reinforcements. This gets, again, 84. Great segment here. We get Chord and Gage retreating out of there. Bach goes over and sort of tends to Benson and Fox, kind of getting the medical team to help them out. So we're really, again, this is old school product here. So we're going full on legit competition, legit wrestling, kayfabe in full effect. So Bach kind of getting the medical team, helping out Benson and Fox after the beatdown from Chord and Gage. Andrews is in the ring. These guys are out of there. Again, so much good stuff here across the board, except for the announcing, I guess. But hey, when you have, the greatness in the ring here, it's hard to live up to. So afterwards, we do get Kyle Rhodes coming into the ring with Aaron Andrews. And so this is, again, everyone's kind of cleared out. It's just Andrews in the ring. Bach's helping the, Benson and Fox to the back. The heels are out of there. So Rhodes asks Andrews about retaining the TCW World Heavyweight Championship at Psycho Circus, beating Joshua Taylor. And he also asks about, Wolf Hawkins and coming out and seeing, Wolf kind of go face-to-face with him, what Wolf had to say earlier on. And Andrews just says, when you're at the top, when you're the ace like I am, there's always a target on your back. He said, I know that I'm the target right now for a lot of different people. And with that comes a lot of pressure for me. But for 147 days, I've handled the pressure and I've kept this championship right here on my shoulder. And so that's when Aaron just kind of says, whether it's Chord, whether it's Greg Gage, whether it's Wolf Hawkins, or anybody else, I'll be ready because I've proven I can handle the pressure of being the World Heavyweight Champion. So Andrews cutting a promo here, making it clear that he knows that there is a target on his back as the champ. And so this gets an 81. Afterwards, the crowd is happy. The babyface has just given the triumphant speech, how he's the world champion. But there are some people who are watching this speech, and it is none other than the Syndicate themselves. Wolf Hawkins, Doc Hammond, Eddie Chandler, Nate Johnson, Chris Flynn. They come out and they are watching from the aisleway as Andrews, again, playing to the crowd. The triumphant babyface here, running off the heels, just defended his championship, a couple days ago at Psycho Circus. Everything going right for Aaron Andrews at the moment. But the stare starts, and that is the Syndicate watching very intently from the aisle. So a 92. So we get our best segment to end. That's how we want it to be, right? So perhaps we know what is to come here moving forward, but we don't know exactly what the Syndicate are up to. So that's how we finish up our first edition of Total Wrestling, and we get an 84, so a really good show here right off the bat. I'm very encouraged by that because I do feel like having the smaller roster gives me a much better feel of how to use these guys because there's just a lot less that you have to, it kind of goes into it from a storyline standpoint because there are less storylines total, and that's where having the bigger rosters with WWE and AEW, I feel like I'm juggling, 10 plus storylines at a time. Not the case here. We can kind of be very compact when it comes to really focusing in on the bigger stories, and that's going to be our theme here moving forward. So in 84, we increased our popularity in 17 regions, but, we did add, and we're going to show you our Canadian deal. Someone mentioned in the comments, we did add a deal in Canada in terms of the broadcasting. So we'll look at that here in a second, but an 84 for our first Total Wrestling show, and let's see what we need to get to before we wrap up. All right, so that was Total Wrestling, as we said. A really good show, I thought, for, again, starting things off here. But we are going to look at some of the stuff here because, again, this is kind of different than what we see from, the usual saves that I run, because it's a lot more interesting to figure out exactly, what's going on elsewhere, because that's going to play into this save much more than it does the real world saves. We did, again, excellent show, struck gold. So a great show here. Let's look at some of the other stuff around here. So Brandon James, injured. He's someone, of course, that's been around for a bit. Let's see. The SWF starting some new feuds here. So I guess these are ones we can look at, different ones. So SWF really starting to plot their new feuds here as we go. Rocky Golden versus the Chokeslam Chief here himself. So we've got that. Trying to see what SWF did. So they had a positive show, and let's see exactly what they had. So 77, we beat them, but let's see what they ran here. So Remo over Joey Morgan, that was a good main event from that standpoint. So here's your overview if you're looking at SWF. Want to know what they're up to. And I'm trying to see what else we had. See if there's anything else notable here, but looks like Ollie's starting to bring in some people on the roster. So good for Ollie, my favorite Mexico promotion there. All right, let's go to our email. Aaron Andrews has an opinion. Greg Gage, a natural talker. He's worth giving promo time to, in his opinion. Well, I agree. You just were involved in a segment with him, so good to know. And I think you all probably understand that Greg Gage will be a big part of our series moving forward, given his background there. Direct testing fees, $4,000. We did get a 2.74 with 2 million viewers, so good to see that for Total Wrestling. Time to heal. Greg Gage. Look at Aaron Andrews knows what he's doing. He wants to give Greg Gage more promo time, and Greg Gage needs to heal up from the schedule. He's a fighting TV champion. I mean, he needs to pretty much defend his championship on TV a lot of the time, but we might give Greg a week off next week. Spoiler alert, we're probably not. I think I already have a match booked for him for next week, but we'll see what we can do to give Greg a little time off maybe. But I think he should be okay before next week's show. So we'll leave that there just to kind of remind me. So the owner goals. I know those are always fascinating here for people. I mean, these, in all honesty, I have no issue with any of these because, this is not a very tough goals to meet in my mind. We're not going to fall into debt. Wolf and Aaron above a 71, we can do that easily. No comedy or hardcore, that's fine. We've already got, we've got brawlers. We don't really have hardcore wrestlers. I'm not really concerned with the comedy wrestling, adding it to the mix anyway. So these owner goals are probably as good as I could have asked for, all things considered. So I don't even really have to think about those because those are pretty much pretty basic from that standpoint. I know someone asked about wanting to see the settings that we have and all that for the game. Like I said before, I don't think I've changed anything. I think my default settings are normal. I think the only thing I would have changed would have been the autosave, as I do disable that because, as I told you guys before, with the other saves, I mean, I've run into technical issues and all that kind of stuff, so I've kind of learned to just disable the autosave sometimes. I like to just do it manually to make sure, again, technical issues could run wild and, you get something messed up, and so I've always disabled that, in the previous games and stuff, so that's just something I've done. But I think all this is what it is by default, so if anyone was curious, that's what I kind of have on that. So, that's where we are with that. But everything else, I mean, again, this is kind of our starting point. Like I said, hope you guys enjoy this series because I just had so much fun booking this first show, and I just think the freedom of the C-Verse, I know, exists because I've played the C-Verse before, but actually doing a save on it on the channel, I think there's just so much more freedom. You guys know I really like to get into my stories with the saves that I do in WWE and AEW. There's a lot more freedom to do that here because you don't have some of those limiting sort of beliefs about what this person should do or they should be at this level. It's your own world. It's a new world presented to you, and you have to figure out what you want to do with it. So yeah, I'm really excited about that, and I think it's going to lead to a very, very entertaining series. So again, I appreciate you guys as always. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. I forgot to mention, let's look at our coverage real quick. So I did say that, let's see, so broadcasting, okay, yeah, so I added Canada One Choice as the pay-per-view provider, so we have medium coverage in Canada. It's a late night deal. That was the only option 1 year. We did add Maple Leaf Sports as the TV provider. Again, medium in Canada too, another late night slot. We try to get the highest revenue we could out of the deal. So, yeah, so we have coverage in America, in Canada now. I know that was suggested in the comments. So, one other thing, and I know I was going to wrap this up a few minutes ago, but I know this is going to sound surprising to some people watching the WWE and AEW saves. I don't love a monthly pay-per-view, but I know the schedule is kind of set the way that it is. And so, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of old school in that regard, even though we do run a monthly pay-per-view, with the WWE save. But the difference in that is that it's a brand split. So we don't run a monthly pay-per-view for each brand necessarily. AEW, we only have the big 4 pay-per-views. That's kind of what I like. I like to build to not a monthly pay-per-view. So I am looking at different options for changing the schedule a little bit. I like to keep these because I like graphics, and then like, okay, I want to use these, but I know we kind of need pay-per-views. And so, this is going to be an interesting dynamic here, because I am going to look at possibilities for changing the schedule. And I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet, and it may take a couple months to kind of actually do it, but I am looking at options, because I don't love building to monthly pay-per-views. I think you have to rush stuff, and I don't like rushing the story sometimes. I like building to the big matches, and, the old school Southern type product, which is what we have, the wrestling, if you will. They didn't have monthly pay-per-views, but they did have kind of big shows along the way, and I think that's what we would do. It wouldn't just be TV for 3 months. We would have special events along the way. It just would not necessarily be on that monthly frequency. So we'll look at options for that, and again, any feedback you have, let me know in the comments. But hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the new TCW series here in TCW 2020. And on the next episode of our TCW series, it will be Total Wrestling for January Week 2.